Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. I'm looking forward to talking with Dr. Michael Housman. Dr. Michael Housman, it's great to meet you. I'm really excited for this conversation. Your company is AI Accelerator. The Think community, Michael has been building AI for the last 15 years, speaking about it for the last 8 years. Today, we're going to talk about his perspective on what's happening, where things are going, and how we can leverage it in our businesses and our day-to-day life. Michael, I'm glad we connected. You also have an upcoming book coming out. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So you've been building it for 15 years. So just to frame it for the listeners, most people have been familiar with AI to the level we are today because of ChatGPT that came out roughly, 2 years ago. So I think when the listener hears that you've been building for 15 years AI products for your businesses, what were you building and where was the technology 15 years ago based on where it is today?
Yeah, I like to tell folks I've been doing this since way before it was cool. So I got a PhD in econ in 2009. Instead of going to academia, I went into technology and I started working with startups and building platforms. My first tech job was building hiring algorithms. So for companies that were doing lots of hiring and they have hiring managers on the front lines making hiring decisions, and there's a long line of research that says we're bad at making decisions, human beings are, especially when it's around other people. And so we built hiring algorithms to help large employers, especially call centers, evaluate new talent, right, that was in the pipeline. And they go through this 40-minute assessment, answer a bunch of questions about their knowledge, skills, and abilities, and it would render a score, green, yellow, or red. And we would tell hiring managers, hire the greens over the yellows and the reds. They'll stay longer, they'll perform better. And so the technology back then wasn't nearly what it is now, right? We were using algorithms to help people make better decisions, but there was nothing in the way of large language models. There was nothing in the way of generative AI. And frankly, all of the models that we built were fine-tuned, were hand-tuned by human data scientists. And that's in stark contrast with how it's built now. And then ended up moving on and doing fraud detection, built chatbots to help support humans with e-commerce, built algorithms to do small business lending and personal consumer loans. So I've been all over that AI world before it was sexy, and it's kind of fascinating to see how it's grown up and really matured as a space.
Why do you think, or why, 15 years ago you were working in it in a high capacity? Why did the public only get it about 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was a couple things. Number one is ChatGPT. I agree with you that it was really ChatGPT that was the starter pistol here.
Yeah.
I think making it consumer facing, so it's the first consumer facing application where the AI is front and center. But the funny thing is they had been releasing GPT 1, 2, 3. It didn't set the world on fire. ChatGPT built it into a chat interface. So they made it conversational. And I think human beings are wired for conversation. And so in a weird way, that back and forth mirrored the way we're used to functioning. Yeah. And then there's some other technical pieces under the hood. They built it in a way that made it give answers that would resonate more with users and customers. And so I think for those two reasons, all of a sudden this thing, I talk about it in the book, it went viral on a way we've never seen before. It got to 100 million users in 5 days. That was faster than TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And so it was amazing for me, having done this for years. All of a sudden, I had friends calling me up saying, "Hey, this AI thing came out of nowhere. What's going on?" And I said, "No. Like, we've been here. We've been doing this for decades, and this just was a big transformational shift."
Let's talk about the transformational shift, and tie that into something you said earlier about conversational. So many people, the people that I talk to, there's kind of multiple schools of thought. One, it's conversational AI, ChatGPT, and we could name many other platforms. Conversational, and to some, the question is it making us dumber? Is it taking away our critical thinking? I'm more of the thinker of, if you know how to communicate with ChatGPT, it's a strategic partner, executive assistant, and it's about how you talk to it and you prompt it. No differently than I have a live executive assistant next to me, and how I talk and interact with that person. And so just kind of talk to both of those listeners. The one, I saw a posting yesterday of a client that said, my business partner and I have been using ChatGPT too much. We're using it a lot less, and we're going to talk as human beings. We realize we've been talking less. I talked to somebody 5 minutes later, and they say, the way I prompt it, it's giving me information that is increasing productivity tenfold, and it's actually making me more productive, smarter, and giving me things to think about that I wouldn't have thought about until maybe step 50, and it's giving me something insightful to think about now. Talk to both those angles.
Yeah, it's funny. The adoption, I talk again about this in the book. Adoption is actually very flat, if low. Only 34% of people out there are using it occasionally. Only 10% are using it daily. And what's scary to me is it supports what you're saying, which is even the 10% that are using it daily, they're using it to draft emails and help, create decks and responses to, customer inquiries. It's like buying a Ferrari and using it as like a charger for your iPhone, right? You're actually missing out on a huge opportunity. And I think the folks that have really made the leap are the ones that think like you do, that it is a thought partner, right? It's actually, it can be a board member. It's a strategic problem-solving engine. And so the business owners that are really leveraging that Ferrari for what it's made for, see it as a sounding board, and they're offering up, they're saying, hey, what do you think of this strategy? Be a difficult client. Here's a client presentation. Be difficult and poke holes in this. And so, I think that's, for me, one of the unlocks is realizing that because it's conversational, it's not a tool, it's a collaborator, it's a teammate, it's a board member, it's a business coach.
So let's talk about something for a second. I want to go back to your stats because it just made me think. So you're saying 34% of people are using it, 10% are using it daily. So a book I read probably 30 years ago, one of my favorite books, I love the book, relevant today, Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. And your stats are really a layover of what he talks about. And one of the things he talks about in kind of a graph is you have, with any new technology, you have the innovators, which is about 2.5%. Then you have the early adopters at 13.5%. That's kind of your 10% day-to-day users. But the early majority, and then he talks about the late majority and then the laggards, but the early majority, to your specific statistic, is 34%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that book, I think, is makes it just overlays on what's happening. So now you have the late majority, right? The early majority is still coming. You have the late majority and the laggards that make up for 50% of the market.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we 3 to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when the late majority and the laggards really kind of begin to incorporate this and see it in their day-to-day lives, in business and in life?
Yeah, I mean, I worry about, well, let me set the stage, which is we see that adoption curve, and you're exactly right. We've seen it with the internet. We've seen it with computers. We're actually a little ahead of those technologies when it comes to AI, probably because we've seen that before, because people realize, no one pushing back and saying, this is just a fad. It's, folks realize, hey, this is a game changer. But technology doesn't move linear like that adoption. Technology moves exponentially. Moore's law, we double the number of chips on a transistors on a chip every 18 months. Well, AI is moving even faster than that. It's doubling every 7 months. So I think what you're going to say, to your point, there's going to be a bigger and bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots, and the folks that have really embraced this technology and those that are waiting on the sidelines. And I think that means two things. One is the folks that lean in, those 10%, they're going to see huge gains to their productivity. They're going to see that they just increase throughput, efficiency. They're moving faster. But I think something not many people are talking about is this is going to disrupt industries in the same way the internet did, right? Think of the Ubers of the world and the Blockbusters and the Nokias, who didn't see the technology coming, didn't realize that someone was out there looking to eat their own lunch, and weren't ready for innovators and disruptors that built this product in an AI native way. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, the biggest, not only are you losing hours of productivity, but there's a good chance that a lot of knowledge workers and companies are going to get blindsided and are going to frankly find themselves disrupted if they don't embrace it soon.
Yeah. So some statistics that I have seen and recently heard, Amazon potentially laying off 14,000 or already has laid off 14,000 people. Microsoft, Intel, so many of these other companies, so many companies laying off people. Is it because of AI? I think there's is AI replacing us? And so the question I have is, AI, I think, will for sure replace jobs. But where do people then, what is the responsibility of the person to grow a specific skill set to be AI proof, or take what they've done and then transfer it to another career, another department in a business? How do you stay in front of AI from a career standpoint today?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My grandfather's a proofreader for 40 years. He was basically replaced by autocorrect, right? So these technologies, historically, you have human switchboard operators. All of a sudden, automated switchboards emerges. Those jobs disappear, but it paved the way for modern telecommunications, data centers, software engineering. So I think it'll create many multiples of the jobs that it has destroyed. I still get that that's scary.
Yeah.
And I think everyone should be experimenting, testing, trying out new tools. They're coming out every day. It's hard to keep up. Even I struggle, and this is literally my job. But folks need to take that opportunity to reskill and to retool themselves. And I'll give an example. Someone on my team who is helping me with social media, and he's a graphic, he does a lot of like design and artwork as a side hustle. He started experimenting with tools, got really good at doing really interesting motion kind of animated graphics, found a boring industry, epoxy, which I couldn't imagine any more boring. But he started building out, he found a weird niche, building out images of epoxy being poured onto floors and hardening before your very eyes. And it wasn't long before an epoxy company reached out to him and said, hey, we love what you're doing. We want to pay you to do this. So I think it's a great example. And he basically, I think a couple months later, gave me notice. And he was like, hey, they're going to pay me a lot more than you do. I have a new job. And by the way, I'm an AI designer now. And it was sad to see Chad go, but I was so proud of him for like, he made that jump. He crossed the chasm, right? He leaned in and he built out a new skill set, and he's going to do incredibly well. And so I tell a lot of stories in the book because I think it's helpful to illustrate like it is possible. People are doing this, and this could be an opportunity to level up, increase your pay, be happier, but you have to take that initiative, right? He had to sit down and say, this is the way of the future. I'm going to learn the hell out of this space.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, that's I appreciate that, and I like that story because it echoes the fact that we all need to kind of take think community 1 to 5 minutes a day just to kind of play around with technology and Google or ChatGPT. Hey, I'm new. This is my 5th day playing around. Tell me the first 2 things that I should do. So I think all that is important. All right, let's talk about you. Your website is filled with a lot of educational insights. You post a lot of papers, a lot of webinars in the spirit of taking 1 to 5 minutes a day and learning AI. There's lots of tools. Your website happens to be one of them. So just kind of guide everybody through what they can learn going to michaelhousman.com.
Yeah, I mean, what you'll see there are a lot of the pieces that I've authored, right? I'm a researcher and a social scientist first and foremost. I've written papers about the impact of these technologies. I've done a lot of unpacking of data and done it firsthand. So you can get a lot of information about the research that I've done, a lot of my perspectives on what's happening in the space. I've got a newsletter that's even more current, where I try to keep people up to date with the latest and greatest tools, what's happening in the space. And so encourage everyone to sign up for that. And a lot of what I do in person, for companies that bring me in, is I do that in person. And so that how I spend most of my time is flying around the world. I find that there's no substitute for that in-person interaction. And so I spend a lot of time flying around the world delivering workshops and boot camps and keynotes, and where I talk about AI, where I give them the tools, put hands on keyboard, and where I help them develop a roadmap. And the good news is I record many of those. I then post those on my YouTube channel and on my website. And so folks can get a flavor for that experience through the website. So yeah, I think I try to make it a valuable resource. But I said, my newsletter and my LinkedIn is where I'm a lot more active. Things are moving so fast that, those are the two resources I point folks to, as well as the book that's coming out.
That's great.
Cool.
Speaking of education, you went to Wharton. And so let's talk about school, college, AI, how people are learning today. What is your opinion on how professors, teachers should be open to AI helping their students? Is it, do we want them to, well, anyway, before I give my 2 cents, what's your 2 cents? Because you went to Wharton, I went to Eastern Michigan, right? Very different schools. So what do you think?
Yeah, and I do want to hear your thoughts. I think, 30, 40 years ago, we had the electric calculator and there was a revolt and people said, no, folks need to learn how to do these calculations in their head. Thankfully, saner heads prevailed. We realized, hey, these are tools that exist not only in the classroom, but in the workplace. We should probably teach people to use these tools. I think the same is true of AI. I know there was pushback initially and folks concerned about students writing their essays with AI. The tools are still not robust enough, I think, to get a really good finished product without the right prompting and the right edits and polish. So I think that's it. I would like to see them, encourage students to use these tools, because I think ultimately they need to get experience with this. I've been actually teaching at UT, and I go in there and I teach students how to use some Gen AI tools to create images and sound and motion, and we create commercials. And this is something you couldn't do 3 years ago. And now I show them how to do it as a part of their design thinking class. The other thing I'll say, and this is a little more controversial, having gone to some good schools, having spent a lot of money and a lot of time in them, I think higher education is due for a disruption. And I think I took EC 10 my freshman year. It was a auditorium of 500 students. Presidential advisor Martin Feldstein was there. He taught. That seems so antiquated now, especially when you can get this sort of one-to-one mentoring and tutoring. And I think it's a good thing. I think schools, and especially the Ivies, have sat back and just assumed, hey, we're going to, charge an arm and a leg for an education that's, probably not much, no better than the Eastern Michigans of the world, just because they have that reputation, that credentials. That's going to change. You're going to learn from AI. It speaks in your language that you like to learn. It's going to move at the pace that you like to learn. I think you're going to be able to get a far better education from AI. And I hope it shakes it up, right? That's going to create some competition in the market, and they may have to justify their own existence. And, even if it takes Harvard down a few pegs, that's okay with me, right? I'd rather someone actually do the learning and showcase their skills. So what are your thoughts on this, by the way?
My thoughts are embrace it. I don't think, I say this 90% of the time, I do not think people should get in trouble for using AI to assist them or help them. Because what I think is more important today, and I'm seeing this from my lens, is whatever they have to do, write a paper, do research, and there's certain things that are really important that need to be done by the written hand and 100% a person, of course. But then I think professors, teachers, et cetera, need to take it to the next level and work on helping people sell, because I think sales is really important. Teach influence, teach negotiation, teach courage, teach what it means to adapt, teach what it means to take all of that and start public speaking. Because there are so many people who are looking down at their phones. They can look great on social media, but they can't sit across from someone and ask questions. So to me, it's like, hey, write a paper. I don't care how you write it. If I want to teach a class. I say, I want you to write a paper on, Abraham Lincoln. I don't care how you write it, but what you have to do is you then have to come in front of the class and you have to do a 3-minute kind of very smart brevity, one of my favorite books, kind of review on Abraham Lincoln. You then have to facilitate an interactive dialogue, asking questions to the people, other students, and then you need to, use soft skills, and then you need to sell something about Abraham Lincoln to the group. Like growing those types of skills to me are what is going to benefit the everybody involved. So to me, these skill sets are missing, and they need to be focused on.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think it supports kind of a thesis that I talk about in the book, which is AI is going to take certain skills off of our plate, and where we're inevitably going to shift is to the things that make us human. So think about the skills that, is information gathering about Abraham Lincoln? Is that the stuff that makes it human? Or is it collaboration? Is it leadership? Is it influence? Like, we're going to be nudged in that direction and really embrace the things that we're best at. Correct. And I think that's, folks are scared. All they hear is like, oh God, this piece of my job is disappearing. And it's like, no, you get to lean into the things that make you you. Authenticity is valued more now than ever because of the AI slop that's getting out into the world and kind of polluting social media.
Yeah. How can you become a better communicator, a better leader, a better collaborator? All of those things, it just appears to me that that's getting missed in the teachings. I don't know if this is, now, but, I don't know how many classes in law school and medical school, they're teaching you how to run a business and have a proper bedside manner, so those types of things, they need to be taught today. They need to be taught, in my opinion, they always needed to be taught more so to your point today. Let's talk about your book. You mentioned a couple of things throughout our talk of your book. What will the reader experience when they read your book?
Yeah, it's really focused on business leaders. I think your audience, folks that are running companies that want to understand what's happening in AI, where is this headed, and most importantly, how do I leverage this to get ahead of competition, to create an unfair advantage in my space. And so I'm an egghead, so I do spend some time unpacking AI, but it's very non-technical. I promise there's no math. You won't get lost in the weeds. It's a lot of personal stories, and I think it's actually pretty funny. I weave in some humor, but it gives them a practical roadmap for how do I brainstorm opportunities? How do I prioritize them? How do I build a roadmap? Lots and lots of examples from my own career of companies that I've been a part of that have disrupted their space, or companies that I've helped coach and consult to do the same thing. And so the goal is for the leader who says, hey, I know this is going to be transformative, but I don't know where to get started. And I hear that a lot. This is that place where they can really get started and it meets them where they're at. So speaks their language, is super accessible. That's the stuff I've been doing on stages for 8 years. The most common thing I hear is, hey, you unpack this in a way that I could really, access the information, I could understand it. And so that's the stuff that I wanted to share with the audience.
Yeah, I've listened to a bunch of your stuff on your website, and you are able to spoon feed it. It's really great. We're sitting here. It's November 2025. We're sitting here again. It's November 2030. What do businesses look like? How are they using, based on kind of where we're going? What do companies look like? What does the workforce look like? How are companies using AI 5 years from now? You mentioned earlier it doubles every 7 months. I would think as the years go by, that will be 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, etc.
Yeah.
So what does it look like 5 years from today?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, you think of the org chart, we're starting to see the trend of AIs on the org chart. Think of entire jobs that right now a human being is doing. I think we're going to start to realize collectively, these are collaborators. These are, think of them as a colleague. And you're going to start to see AIs that are sophisticated enough that they can handle a large chunk of the work that a content marketer does, right? That data analysts can do, that engineers can do. And so I think, you're going to see companies that are really getting it are effectively going to either stay the same size while they grow their footprint, or they might shrink a little bit. And you're going to be collaborating, in a Slack channel or however you communicate with colleagues, you're going to be collaborating with AI colleagues as well, AI quote unquote employees. Your day is going to be spent in all these different platforms. And that's not that different than what we see now, right? We spend so much of our time on a variety of SaaS platforms, handling, documents and going on Zoom calls or Teams calls, collaborating via Slack. So I think a lot of those jobs are going to be offloaded to AI. I think you'll be interacting with AI. I think the internet itself is going to transform because it was built for search engines and human eyes and human hands. And I think agents, we're already seeing Google's search volume has dropped from 99% for decades. It's now, for the first time, back to 90%, and it's plummeting. And so companies, especially if you have a D2C company, how do you get agents to surf your site, to click buy? It's going to be a very different skill set, right? You're going to have to optimize for an agent. And then finally, I would say companies, you're thinking 5 years out, think about how would you build whatever company your company is and what they do. There's a fun thought question, which is how would you do this if you started from scratch today and you were leveraging AI? How would you build the business in a different way? Would you start by hiring a bunch of people and signing up for SaaS platforms? No, you probably build an AI native company in a very different way. And so I think every company needs to be on the lookout for disruption, right? Who's going to come and eat my lunch because they've been able to re-engineer everything I do, but they do it with less overhead, they do it with fewer human beings and with a lot more AI. So that's one of the punchlines of the book is there's the incremental improvements. That's the how do I make my team and myself more efficient? But there's the transformative, disruptive side. And if you ignore that, you go the way of Uber, of Blockbuster, of Nokia, of Yahoo, of the laundry list of companies that thought the internet was just a fad.
Michael Dell, one of my favorite podcasts is called Founders. I don't know if you listen to it, by David Senra. And Michael Dell was recently interviewed on one of his, on the David Senra podcast. And he was sharing that he stood up and Michael Dell shared with his team, I stood up and told the company that 5 years from now, we will have a new competitor. That competitor will be in every business we are in. They'll be faster, more efficient, and more capable. They'll put us out of business. And the only way to prevent that is to become that company. Overlay that with, I think it was Sam Altman, who has predicted that we're going to see the first 10-person company and billion-dollar valuation. Other analysts are pointing to a $1 billion valuation for potentially a one-person company. Take the data of WhatsApp being acquired by Facebook in 2014 for $19 billion. They had 55 employees. So here we are with technology and AI. In 1995, I started an internet company with my brother and a buddy. We sold it 2 years later. And at that time, a scrolling thing across the screen and Netscape was really cutting edge.
Yeah.
And so now fast forward all of these years, and now we're talking about a 10 or under person because of AI and technology to build billion-dollar businesses. What types of businesses will those be?
I think, I go to audiences and I ask, hey, who's at risk of disruption after I give them this story? And the easy answer is everybody. I think the biggest one is think of where there's a lot of knowledge workers, because at its core, artificial intelligence scales intelligence. That's what knowledge workers do. If your company is full of knowledge workers, I do a lot of work with EY, for example. That's all, auditors, tax professionals, and accountants. It's all consultants. I think those businesses are ripe for disruption. And I think lawyers, doctors, right? All coders, developers. So I think where you see big pockets of knowledge work, those are going to be the sharp end of the spear. The funny thing is, I was talking to someone recently, the welders and the roofers of the world, they've got, humanoid robots are getting pretty cool, but they've got a long tail, right? So you don't have to worry about
the trades are the place to be. The trades are the place to be.
I think there's a shortage of them. But I think wherever you see knowledge work, I think lawyers especially, I've started going to I got some advice from a lawyer recently. I went to ChatGPT. It was more robust. It was interactive and a hell of a lot cheaper. I found a mistake my accountant had made with a ChatGPT like tool. So
the only obstacle on that one, though, I'll say, is the hallucinations, because I've also heard of attorneys citing cases in a court of law that were made up by chat, and completely discredited. So yes, I hear you on what you're saying, but to forecast out the technology doubling every 7 months and 6 months, et cetera, we got to get in front of it. It seems to be moving faster now than the previous 2 years, for sure, the last 15 years. Let's talk about brand building. I do think that there is a space for people to grow their brand, whether it be on social media, books, speaking, because today you want to be known for something. You need to have credibility, real-time credibility. You need to have videos. You need to be sharing content, because when people think of a specific niche, you want them to think of you. So to me, that is a way to get in front of AI. Can you just kind of talk to that and give me your opinion?
Yeah, there's all sorts of AI enabled solutions to help with that content creation process, to basically streamline it so you're not spending your time clipping videos and adding subtitles at the bottom. You can focus on, again, the things that make you human, right? Thinking about, how do I build an authentic voice and an authentic brand, and let the tools help you by doing that design work. And I'll give you one example. It's a company I engaged with early in this evolution called Pet Lab. They do pet supplements, like probiotics for your dog or cat. Small kind of niche category, and it's dominated by a bunch of bigger companies. And what they realized is they spend so much time creating ads, designing ads. They had all sorts of folks that were expert in Photoshop. They found some off-the-shelf tools like Midjourney to help with that image creation. And all of a sudden, their velocity went from 500 ads a month to 2,300. They took down the amount of time to create this content. I think it shrunk down to a third of what it was before. Yeah. And the point is that everyone's worried about disruption and we're all scared. They are punching way above their weight. Their headcount doesn't reflect the footprint that they now have on the internet. And the happy end of this story is they actually got acquired by a big private equity company about 6 months ago. So these unlocks, when it comes to digital content creation, are huge. And if you're competing with a pet lab and you're not using these tools, there's no way to keep up, right? You're just hiring.
You go into a company, how do you evaluate what they need, and then how do you start building the AI tools that are curated and customized for them?
Yeah. Start by, usually it's a workshop, and we'll spend a full day first getting a lot of the fear and turning that into excitement. You'd be amazed. You might not be amazed at how scared people are.
I see it every day. I think people are terrified of it. Yeah.
They're terrified. Yeah. Absolutely. So we have to, and I've seen it. I've been in organizations where entire offices, branches just walked out the door. They said, I know what you're doing. I'm not training my AI replacement. I'm going to go across the street to the non-AI shop because I'm going to have a job there. It was crazy. Point is, turn that fear into excitement. Show them what's possible. And part of that means hands on keyboard, get them in the tools, show them that creating a commercial or a well-researched deck that would have taken multiple days before, we can do it in 90 minutes. And we have those eye-opening moments. And then we really try to understand, okay, what's everyone's usage? What are their favorite tools? Where are they right now? And we start to figure out, where are you spending a lot of your time that you think an AI tool could help automate or augment that work? And we identify projects, and then we prioritize them based on cost, time to implement, as well as the value it creates. And then we find the low-hanging fruit. You need to build those AI muscles. And again, something I talk about in the book. It's the equivalent. I'm a fitness guy, and you can't go in the gym and say, okay, I'm going to load the barbell with 15 pounds and expect you need to start small. You need to build confidence. You need to build those skills and capabilities. And so we leave the day with a roadmap for them that it's a glossy roadmap they can share with leadership. It's obviously going to evolve and change, but they also know what are projects 1 and 2? Where are we going to get started? What's the value this is going to create? And then when they need it, if they need some external help, we of course have folks that are available to help them on their journey. And so it's just, every journey is different, but we try to get our arms around, where are you now? Where do you need to be? And how do we cross that bridge?
And does your team build software, or are you just guiding and advising?
It's a bit of both.
Okay.
In some cases, there's nothing. We try to. I always buy before I build. There's plenty of stuff that needs to be done, and if there's off-the-shelf software that gets you 95% of the way there, use that, because it's much easier to pay a $20 a month or something like that SaaS subscription fee.
Yeah.
For companies that are a little more nuanced, esoteric, I do have. I mean, again, I'm a data scientist by training. I spent 15 years as a developer. We have folks on my team who can actually build bespoke solutions, and that's custom software. And so I do have a couple clients that are doing that. So it just depends. But we're trying to, above all, I say, like, buy before you build. Like, I guarantee the folks that are listening, and I know you've had these light bulb moments, for the folks that are listening, there are a handful of $20 a month tools that they could be using right now that would make them probably 2x more efficient if they just signed up.
Give everybody your favorite tools.
Yeah. So for LLMs, it depends. I like Claude for coding and writing and synthesis. I like ChatGPT is more of a catch-all. Google Gemini's research tool is unbelievable. I use it all the time. It takes the place of a team of analysts that would have taken days of work. It can do incredibly deep research and produce results, and it's super transparent. For image generation, because I do some stuff that's multimedia, I like Flux Replicate is a great one. I don't like ChatGPT's native AI generator as much. I do video work, so Runway is a favorite of mine. Sora is really good. I'm trying to think what are the other ones. And then I also you need to do voiceover. 11 Labs is great. Oh, and Gamma. I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't like Copilot. I don't think it's always disappointed me. For deck creation, Gamma is top notch, and you see it create a deck live in front of your very eyes. It's like magic. So what about yourself? I'm always looking for new ones and tips and tricks. Oh yeah, Notebook LM is amazing.
I was just going to say Notebook LM is great, and it's interesting. I just interviewed somebody, and we were talking about Notebook LM. Michael Tedesco, who's the former head of innovation at PayPal. He teaches AI at San Diego State, and he was saying that he uses Notebook LM when he's got a lot of research that he needs to read, or not research, but things to read. He'll put it in, and then the people will read it to them. And then yesterday, my wife was telling me that one of our best friend's kids at school takes certain things and puts it in Notebook LM, and it reads all the everything from the book in a podcast format. I thought that was brilliant to use for school. I love ChatGPT. I really like Claude and Claude 4.5. I'm writing my second book. I'm using that as an editor to kind of help me as I write. Those two, I love Notebook LM. Those are really my go-tos. Those are my go-tos. Yeah.
No, I think it's great. And by the way, a feature not many know about it, Notebook LM, is, and I think it's new, you can have conversation. You can actually ask questions and get answers back. So it can be two-way. It's not just a podcast, right? So that's you can learn so quickly about something if it's interactive. So anyhow, that's
I saw that the other day. It was crazy. Yeah. Oh, look, we have a question. It was. I love that. So you're talking a lot earlier about the power of delegating, the power of being more productive. I think it's great. Everything you're talking about, fortunately, will help people. Unfortunately, if they're listening to this in a year, it may be archaic. So we don't know the answer to that one yet. Let's do a quick speed run. You ready?
Go for it. Sure.
Your dad was a proofreader. What did he teach you about eye for detail?
Sorry. So it was my grandfather who was a proofreader.
Your grandfather, sorry.
But he was the most meticulous, detail-oriented human being that I know. And I think I got a bit from just kind of naturally through osmosis, got that from him. The details matter. I love the saying, how you do one thing, you do everything. And I think that's really true. It's like those details in the minutest thing, it really matters. And I take a lot of pride. decks and so on and so forth. I focus on those minute details.
Yeah, it's great. Book that's had a big impact on you.
All of Malcolm Gladwell stuff is amazing. Adam Grant, his book Outliers is not only that was formative for me. He actually is a friend, and he quoted some of my research in that book. So any for economics guys, anything where they take these concepts, research and stories, and they weave it together in a cohesive narrative, like those are it blows my mind.
Yeah, I love Malcolm's work. I love Adam's work. I actually asked him to be on my podcast like 5 years ago. He said no. So maybe you can influence him. I sent him. It was funny because I sent him an email. A buddy introduced me to him, and at the time, it was before COVID, so at least 7 years ago. I didn't know who Adam Grant was. He said, "Oh, I have this guy that I think a buddy that I think you would love to." So he just said like, "Hey, Adam, John." I'm like, "What up, Adam? You want to be on my podcast?" He's like, "When I have time." I mean, he was nice about it. He's like, "I'm slammed." Whatever he said, I can't remember. So I was like, "All right." And then I think 2 weeks later, I was like, "Oh, I should look up who this guy is." And I was like, "Oh, this is him." Yeah. So no disrespect in the story, but it was. I always find that funny. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Oh man. I do like and this is, pretty common. It's like follow, do what you love, don't follow the money. And I tell everyone, I tell in the book, graduating from Harvard, all my friends are getting investment banking jobs on Wall Street. I like working with data. I'd be miserable. And so I started down the path of being a data scientist, which at the time, not popular, not very lucrative. And they looked at me like I was nuts. And I'm so fortunate that that's what I did. And I love what I do. And I would have been miserable, spreadsheet jockeying for however many years. So I follow that. I would, I'm passionate about this, and it's kind of fun when the world sits up and take notice and says, "Hey, this thing you're doing is actually kind of cool."
If you tap in and follow your talent, then the world notices. I think follow your talent, and then you're in your passion. It doesn't feel like work. Last question. One thing everybody can do right now to have less fear about AI is
go into your LLM of choice, especially if it has memory enabled, and don't give it a work task. Just talk to it. Like here's a mind-blowing prompt. Go to ChatGPT if you've used it a fair amount and say, "Hey, what are my blind spots?" Or like, what do you think are the things I can do to improve? Or what are my strengths? And for me, it nailed me. And I think knowing me as well, it knows me as well as my girlfriend, my partner. And I thought that was so incredible that it could know me in a very strong way. And so that to me is exciting. I don't want to give them productivity tips. Hey, automate your email. It's like, no, talk to it like a human being. And it's unbelievable what you can learn about yourself.
It's great. Michael, this was great. I really enjoyed this conversation. Tell people where they can connect with you, learn more about you, get all your products, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website, michaelhousman.com, of course, my LinkedIn, you just look me up on LinkedIn. That's the platform I use the most. And as John mentioned, I'm super excited. In about a month and a half, I'm going to release Future Proof, transform your business with AI or get the left behind. And I'm so proud of how it's turned out and the way it's in my, it kind of speaks the stories that I do on stage, but it makes it accessible and it scales these ideas. So you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to fly me in from some other state. So
that's great. Well, I would love to. I'm excited to read it when it comes out. And then we'll have you back on the show if you're open to it and kind of dissect the book and go over it if you want.
I'd love to.
Michael, this was great. Think community. Michael shared a lot about AI. In closing, I'll just extract one very important thing, or actually two. One, don't have a fear mindset of it. It's very easy for me to say don't have it, but really do your best to tap into the excitement of it. And with that, take the responsibility of a minimum of 1 minute a day playing around with the technology. Don't get left behind because you didn't do your part. Great things will come, like you shared from your story. You may find new talents, new passions, loves within the technology. But if you Google anything, you can get great information. Michael has great stuff at his website, michaelhousman.com. You can also get great content at my website, johndawson.com. Michael, this was great. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.